seat up. You know, crazy stuff. She wanted Crest and I want Aquafresh. Just get something. Go, okay, if you can't agree, just go over to the dollar store. $1.50 back. You know what I'm saying? No name, just Family Dollar. At least it's got family on it. We say his and hers, baby. But we got a distorted view. You need to be able to hear the voice of the Spirit on your own. I try to connect y'all to the point that you can go to scriptures on your own. All I do is I just give you a model. I tell you know, you need to be able to hear. He's your shepherd, and his sheep hear his voice.
That's right. That's word. Amen.
If you hear his voice, you hear mine.
Amen.
You got anything to say about that?
Yeah, what it does too is that it gives you, if you understand that you hear his voice, you don't have to, a pastor doesn't have to spend so much time trying to instruct you in something that he already instructed you in.
I ain't in every place. I'm sorry, I don't even think I am, but I'm not in every place. Unless you put me in a CD or cassette, but I'm not not there. I can't see everything. And then sometimes as a leader, you get half the story.
Right.
Because you're not going to tell on yourself.
Right.
You're only going to tell the half that you want to get right. But if you get God in it, God sees all things. And if you prick your heart, you're not going to be walking in anger and malice and unforgiveness and stuff like that. Out of sight, out of mind. If I'm not around, you say, he ain't around. Not saying, you know, I'm not saying it's going to steal on somebody. Well, saints fight. But I'm just saying the way we treat one another. Yeah, saints fight, not saints. Another gourd is they rebel against godly authority. The downside is, well, I'm my own man, especially men. Women are more apt to submit to the fivefold ministry or the senior leader. Men have a hard time.
Does that have anything to do with probably fathers or anything? Or
could be fathers. Yeah. Could have not having a fatherly figure could do it. Could be that I'm a man. I put my pants on. You can put the pants on just like you did. You can hear it in the spirit sometimes. You know, as a man, men have a tendency to check you out, to spy you out, and see if you're man enough to bring any correction to me. You know, it's all kind of stuff. But we have people that rebel against godly authority that don't believe that you need to be connected to a house. You know, that you can get it on TV. You know, if I can decide what I can do with my life without being responsible to the body. That's rebellion against godly authority.
But if we call the rule over, you have to come under the rule over.
That's right. That's a good point. I remember I did teaching out of Leviticus 27. It talks about that the sheep had to go underneath the shepherd's rod. If you're going to get into a place of ruling, you got to be able to go underneath the shepherd's rod. Some folks want authority, but they never submitted to authority. In fact, the only way you're going to increase in authority is by submission to authority. Husband and wife, that's why I can't wait. We're going to really have a Beulah coming up. Y'all, I mean, we'll say thank the Lord.
Thank the Lord. Yeah.
So we got a box over there so you can put all your questions in it so we can go ahead and get y'all straight. Go ahead.
Any authority that doesn't come legally is illegitimate anyway.
Illegitimate.
It don't come through the word.
So it got to be ordained authority. I'm talking about godly authority though. I'm talking about the authority, even delegated authority is godly authority. If I got somebody over at the department and then you know that you don't like that person and you have a hard time with that person, that's still delegated authority and it's still godly authority. It's not ungodly because it don't fit you.
That's right.
Because it's the assignment that determines if it's godly or not. Yeah. So, so we have a tendency to rebel. And God looks at that. God said, oh, you can't receive, huh? And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to help y'all out. Because I know we got people who want to increase your metron. You know what a metron, it means your rule. God will only increase your rule if you submit to another measure. If you can't submit to a measure of rule, you can hang it. I don't care what nobody. You can leave this church, go to anybody else's church. God will not extend your borders or your influence or your anointing or anything to do that's connected to the gifts. If you can't submit to authority. How much time we got, bro?
20.
Okay, I'm going to need 5 of that. Because evidently we don't get too far tonight. Or we did get far, but we didn't get where I wanted to go. But anyway, don't. We love you, brother.
Yeah,
But you had a question
No, so I was just wondering why you were saying that.
about what?
We got fired, but we didn't get too far.
Oh, we did get fired. But I'm just saying, I wanted to tackle and get rid of all the boards. That's what I wanted, to get rid of all the boards. But rebelling against authority. We said there's a misogynist attitude, gender, bigotry. Misogynist means that I'm the man. That only women can't lead the church. They can't be in the fivefold ministry. All they can be is missionaries. They can't hold a title. It's sad when I see anointed women walking around as missionaries. Because some pastor, and I just said, because some pastor won't recognize the New Testament role is that he's seen a male and female, he anointed to call them Christ. Because of some scholastic stuff he learned over in seminary school, so we can't break the mold or raise the ceiling and say, you know what, she's anointed and I can see that gift in her. Let me go ahead and lay hands and approve it.
So if we only call her a missionary, she's only going to operate as a missionary?
Not necessarily. That's a good point. Now, because to whatever they receive her as, in that church, that's what they'll receive. But if she goes outside of that church and she goes to another church and they recognize that they call her a prophet, hey, they're going to get the prophet out of her. Because God will never be contained like that because of labels.
But that's something that I always wondered, now that you said it, because I would see people go out and they would do things at another place, but then they would keep coming back and stay at the same house where they're being muzzled, where they can't speak the way that they should.
And that I believe that's that spiritual cocoon. That's that spiritual training. I won't advise a person. Say for instance, you've been at a church and the church is probably denominational, and then you got exposed to charismatic and you start flowing a little bit in the gifts. I wouldn't tell them to run immediately. Because God could be using that. Just like he used David to submit to Saul. God can use your situation and cause you to submit. Because I think obedience is greater than a gift. And some folks say, well, I'm gifted, but I'll be disobedient. Because I got to do it because the Lord said. Bump you. God told me to speak it. I'm going to get the mic somehow, some way. I'm going to stand up in the middle of the church. I'm going to say, thus saith the Lord, because I've been sick. There's folks that do that. I've heard folks say, don't ask me. I've talked to folks in ministry say, I went to another church and boom, 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 and they won't receive my gift. And I got up and I felt led of the Lord to tell them, what God was saying. I said, no, that wasn't led of the Lord. It was led of jealousy. It was led of pride, arrogance. Because you should have been submitted to the culture of that house. You got to submit to the culture. Whatever that house recognize and honor. Now, if you don't want to get with the program, then by all means leave. That's easy. If you're going to be a lawyer, you're not going to go to mechanic school. I mean, help me out. What you going to do, go to mechanic school and then think they're going to ordain you and give you your law license? It's not going to happen. If God calls you to be a mechanic, by all means, go to a mechanic school. He called you to be a lawyer, go to lawyer school. He called you to be a cook, go to culinary school. Don't try to go to law school, become a cook. You'll come in there with your whites on and your recipe, it ain't gonna happen. Next thing, illegitimate authority. There's some wild boards. We're gonna stop right here. We'll get this next week. We'll talk about illegitimate authority. We'll talk about spiritual warfare. We're gonna talk about church membership. Ooh, that's gonna be good. 'Cause I can just belong to a church, I'm good. No, you ain't good. No, because you got to find a church that fits your DNA.
That's right.
You can die in church. We went to that scripture.